It is PFL CEO Peter Murray, who has made his way back to the United States after being in Saudi Arabia for what was, I mean, what can you say, an absolutely incredible Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou event. And Pete, before we get into the fight itself, I just wanted to get your impressions of the event as a whole, right? Because you have been around, the biggest sporting events in the world, and this thing seemed on par with anything the world has ever seen.
Oh, it was an absolute, world-class spectacle. I mean, it was a mega global event with all the pageantry, the entertainment, the celebrity, and then the build to the main event. It was really world-class for sure.
It really was something to watch. I was just watching it from home, obviously, but it seemed like an incredible event. And then, I'm tuning in for entertainment value. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a spectacle. And then, my goodness, Francis Ngannou goes out there and does better than, I'll just be honest, I think anyone expected other than him and his team and his family. Came up short, but I just thought had an incredible showing. Had the knockdown, showed that he could box. He had more than just a puncher's chance. He was out there competing. Man, just give me your thoughts on his performance. And I got to imagine you were feeling that same kind of impression along the way.
Everyone underestimated Francis, including Tyson. And, you can't count, Francis out. He's a force. I mean, you look at what he's done in the cage. He's a striker. And what no one really had a clue on is like, what was his technique going to be? And he really proved that, while somewhat unorthodox, he went toe to toe. And while he didn't tag Tyson as many times, when he did tag him, his power was felt. And, in the third round, dropped him. And I think that really created the dynamic in the fight. Yeah.
It really did. I mean, as you said, the technique that he showed, switching stances and just looked comfortable everywhere. And it's a little bit unorthodox, but that's kind of the smart way to play it, right? I mean, you're not the lifelong boxer. You got to go in there and do something a little bit different. Maybe fight the guy more than box the guy. And I don't know. I just think kudos to the whole team. And I feel like, they've been building to that moment for so long. To go deliver on that stage was pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, I mean, with Francis and Andrew Cutro and Markel, they're a team, and they took a lot of flack for making some moves, and they Francis had conviction, and he's building a platform. He's doing it his way, which is great.
Absolutely. Now the big question when it comes to Francis is, what does he do next, right? Because it sure seems like a lot of people want to see him in some boxing matches, whether it be a rematch with Tyson Fury, whether it be some of the other big names that are out there, whether it be Wilder or, AJ or even Usyk. I mean, who knows? You could really put him with anybody. So I guess the question would be, I know you leave that up to him to decide, but as great as this was, is there any chance that this is a potential negative for the PFL, who I'm sure would love to see Francis come compete in the smart cage?
Oh, it's going to happen. Yeah. So listen, Francis has a plethora of options now. The best of the best in boxing, who now will take him much more seriously, than Tyson, did. And so there's the next big fight coming. Francis has options on who that opponent is in boxing, and we think that's great. And but Francis is also committed to getting back into the cage in 2024, making his debut with the PFL. And, we'll launch our pay-per-view division next year, our super fights division. He'll be part of that. And we're having a number of conversations in terms of timing, his opponent in MMA, and how that would work with boxing. So all that stuff's being worked out. Francis can do both. The question is, which one comes first? And that's okay. We have a lot going on at the PFL, and we're excited to make, some additional announcements, very soon, in terms of, expanding our calendar of events, and even making an impact in, or expanding our pay-per-view, our fights. So, we're excited.
I love it. Hey, and who says maybe you can't do some cage fights alongside some boxing fights? I mean, anything's a possibility, right?
I agree. Why not have, you can have a ring and a cage next to one another, or do it in the same, do it all in the cage, crossover fights. So, the Deontay Wilder conversation, I think it's great. And, Francis talked about that fight. We're supportive of it. Modified rules. I think fans would not only, get up for, seeing Deontay and Francis go at it, but, intrigued about what are these modified rules? How does it work? And, we can draw those plays up.
I love it. That might be the most interesting possibility on the table right now, but there's a lot of them. So we'll be excited to see what gets decided. I guess I would ask you as well. I mean, obviously, you're over there to watch Francis, but Saudi Arabia, of course, a business partner with you in the PFL as well. So I've got to imagine, number one, they're just excited, right? I mean, he's part of your organization. They're invested in it. He has a great performance. But, I mean, what can you tell us about the latest on that partnership and kind of what the next steps are to figure out, how you guys work together?
With respect to our partnership with Saudi Arabia, with
correct, yeah, correct,
yeah. I mean, listen, Surge, which is the sports investment arm of PIF and KSA, we have a long-term strategic partnership. They're minority owners in sort of our global entity, and as part of our overall partnership, we're committed to staging, more major mega events in Saudi Arabia, from pay-per-view super fights to world championships to other mega events, including the launch of PFL MENA, our second international regional league. And so we're really focused on building out the ecosystem, a world-class ecosystem in Saudi, tied to MMA. At the grassroots level, working with the combat federations, the Olympic combat federations in Saudi Arabia, and really putting the resources and infrastructure in place to develop athletes, as well as stage our international league events in PFL MENA, but also stage mega events, pay-per-view. I mean, I truly believe it's such an interesting time in that part of the world, in Saudi Arabia, specifically on the intersection of sports. And Saudi Arabia is the new fight capital of the world. You're going to see more major, not only sporting events across other major sports. I mean, they have F1, and they're built. They have obviously football, meaning soccer, and plenty more events to come in different sports. But within combat sports and MMA, as it relates to our partnership with PFL's partnership with Surge, major events coming on the calendar, and then we'll distribute that content globally.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing about that. You mentioned it, the new fight capital of the world. I mean, they announced a deal with the UFC, and you have always, peacefully coexisted with the UFC, said, hey, the audience is really underserved. There's room for both of us. But was that a surprising announcement? Or, I mean, I think a lot of us from the outside are looking in trying to say, well, what does that mean? Does that mean they're not as committed to the PFL as we thought they were? Or what, how does that all shake out? So when you saw that news, I guess, what was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, listen, we're focused on what we're building. PFL is at the forefront of KSA's MMA global strategy as an investor, and to essentially transform the sport both globally and regionally. I could also tell you we're having conversations with Abu Dhabi and Qatar for PFL related events, in conjunction with our long-term plans in the region. So, more to come on that.
That's awesome. There really is room for everybody to exist there. I know the goal was 2024 to have the MENA League up and operating. Is that still the plan?
On track. That'll launch in second quarter of 2024. And then going back to Francis and his other hat that he wears beyond being now a professional boxer, MMA champion, chairman of PFL Africa. So, Francis, the PFL, we've been going to work in the coming, I would say, weeks now. We'll be making some major announcements on strategic partnerships, media distribution, as well as the road to, the PFL Africa League launching in 2025 in addition to how we're going to be, you know, ramping up some of that talent, exciting talent from the continent.
That is awesome. I've told you before, but I'll say it again. When you guys first started laying out these global plans, I thought, man, how ambitious that is going to be to get that done. But you keep chipping away at it, and you keep improving and keep proving that you can get it done. So very impressive.
Yeah, I'll tell you that we will have 6 international leagues up and running by 2026. So, you know, PFL Europe done, up and running, inaugural season. The 3rd PFL Europe event, which was our playoffs, that was our debut in France. You know, we did the event in Paris. It was amazing. Obviously, Cedric Doumbé was at the top of the card, and you know the show was sold out 2 months in advance, and it was the most viewed MMA event in France's television history, and that was PFL Europe. That wasn't a PFL Global season. That wasn't a PFL pay-per-view event. So, you know, the demand is there not only for MMA, but the PFL brand of MMA and what we're bringing to the sport and to markets all over the world, Europe, France included. And so, you know, it's just a proof of concept right there. And then, you know, we finished big in Dublin with the PFL Europe Championship. That's going to be another great moment, I think, for the sport. We have some great Irish fighters on the card in the hunt for that championship, plus a number of showcase fighters, you know, on the card. And then, you know, Mina's on. I mentioned PFL Africa in 25. In addition to 25, we'll be making announcements and launching PFL Australia alongside of PFL Africa in 2025. And then what will follow is PFL Brazil/LATAM, and then PFL Asia. So 6 leagues within 3 years, and then we can really start activating in-region competition, pan-regional competition among these regional leagues and athletes, and creating the Champions League of MMA. That's what we're focused on, and what it solves for fighters. And you know, you love this sport. You've been in this sport for so long, and you know, why we exist is to give great fighters who are in different stages of their careers around the world opportunity to compete consistently against top competition on major media platforms, their ability to earn their way to regional championships and becoming champion, then pathway to PFL Global, and perhaps for some up to that pay-per-view division. And, you know, very much so, hope is the strategy of this athlete around the world. Because, you know, unfortunately, there's not enough, you know, resources, infrastructure, systems in place to give them proper development and pathways. That's what we're focused on.
I really do love it. The promotion relegation system, but for individual athletes. And as you said, the clear pathway to start from where they are and get to the very top, which is not always an easy journey. So I love it. You know, you touched on how great France did. It really is proof of concept. Obviously, the only criticism there has been of PFL Europe is people in the United States wanted to see it, right? So as you continue to develop, you know, around these global leagues.
Yeah, no, and that's just tied up with how our distribution agreements are structured this year. So we'll be opening up distribution for around the world for all of our international leagues, including here in the U.S. for PFL Europe, here in the U.S. for PFL MENA, so on and so forth. So more to come, and we'll see how we tackle the championship in December to give fans some access.
That's phenomenal. That's great news. All right. Well, listen, so much going on around the globe, but of course, we still do have the championship coming up in Washington, D.C. on Friday, November 24th. I'm looking forward to being out there. It's always a great scene. A number of great fights on the lineup for sure. I mean, obviously, when there's $1 million at stake, there always is, but some really good matchups. But what can you tell us, Pete, about just maybe your excitement for this event in general, maybe something that it signifies, anything special over this year versus previous championships?
Yeah, well, listen, going back to, you know, DC, we have DC roots, you know, our chairman, Don Davis, and, you know, and founder, my partner, you know, he's from DC, Ted Leonsis, you know, an investor in the PFL and great partner, all DC based. And, you know, so we have roots in DC, so we're excited to go back. And, you know, I think also being part of a holiday weekend, you know, we started the championship, you know, on New Year's Eve. And I think 2 years we staged it on New Year's Eve. We thought, what a great holiday weekend to engage on some top competition and in MMA, and a night such as this. It's a spectacle. So last year was great. Thanksgiving really worked out. What else is everybody doing on Thanksgiving Friday? So you might as well give the gift of fighting this holiday with the PFL on Black Friday. 6 world title fights, one night, life-changing money on the line. You also have Kayla Harrison coming back against Julia Budd. She's on the card. We have Ray Cooper, on the card. So it's going to be a fun night.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the lineup. Now, I did see some people that were criticizing a little bit. They said, how is there $1 million final on the lead card of this on ESPN Plus and not on pay-per-view? But I looked at that and I see Gabriel Braga and Jesus Pinedo, and I say, that might be one of the biggest fireworks matchups of the night. They got some rivalry. It's going to be great. That, to me, looks like a strategic decision to lead into your pay-per-view versus a potential oversight.
Yeah, well, listen, as we're getting started, everybody said there are formulas, and certainly there's data, and we're focused on it, and maximizing viewership and of course the buys. That's the model. But we do think leading in strong with a fight like that to create excitement, and there's 5 more championships to follow. Come on in. That's kind of a handshake. Come on in. And then, that leads into Ray Cooper versus Brunson, a new signing. And then you go right into Kayla Harrison versus Julia Budd. And that's a fight that fans and we wanted to put together over the last couple of seasons. And now we have that opportunity. So there's plenty there for everybody below the card and certainly above, on the main card.
Yeah, I love it. That was my assumption. I just wanted to hear from you because it seemed like a strategic call to me, and I want to make sure that I was thinking the same way you were. So, listen, I'm looking forward to it. Listen, if we're talking to you, I have to bring up Bellator, of course. These discussions have been going on and on and on. What can you tell us about the latest in any potential partnership, acquisition, however things potentially may be structured? I know business deals can't always be talked about when they're happening, but the rumors, the reports are too strong. What can you tell us?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're looking forward to, the opportunity of finalizing, that deal. And when it's done, you'll be the first to know, and more to come on how potentially Bellator fits within our overall platform. And until it's done, it's not done.
That's the truth. Well, we're looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Pete, listen, I know you're a busy man. I know you've had a lot of travel. I know you got a lot going on, so I won't keep you any longer. But what else can you tell us? You've laid out a lot for the plan. It seems like this thing is really moving in the direction you guys always had the vision. But, whether it be the championship, whether it be 2024, what's the message that you want fans to leave with?
Yeah, well, 2024, you're talking about, we started the company with 10 events, right? With our league season, where 6 regular season, 3 playoff, 1 championship. That's the format. That's the model. We feel like year over year, we've improved, that roster, the quality of the product and the experience. And then we launched, 2 years ago, the Challenger Series franchise. So this year, and we launched on top of that, PFL Europe. And that gave us, 22 events this year. Next year, we're talking over 30 events, launching our pay-per-view division. Again, a new franchise, another regional league. So 30 events, and all of that product, all those events will be distributed globally, including here, in the U.S. And then within 3 years' time, we'll have well over 50 events for this fan. And the fan's begging for it, regionally and globally. Demand is at an all-time high. The sport is becoming more and more mainstream. So that's, we're just looking forward to continuing to grow the sport, grow the league, and do it with purpose.
I love it. I love the mission. I love the statement. I think you speak the truth. So I'm looking forward to seeing the future continue to play out. Meantime, we'll look forward to the championship. See you in Washington, D.C. And Pete, thank you for the time.
You got it, John. Always a pleasure. See you in D.C., man. Appreciate you. Thank you.